Ahoy, my wizards! It is I, Dev, aka Captain Ahab, because ever since the beginning of this standard season, I've been chasing the white whale that is a good Nadir Kraken deck. But it does exist, and today I'm going to show it to you, along with Julie, the proverbial Kraken of the channel, because you are as elusive as a Kraken. We never get to see Julie, but here she is, the matron of the house, the elder stateswoman, Julie herself, who will not... I guess we'll just not face the camera. But anyway, yeah, me, just like everybody else, I've been enamored with this card since I first saw it during spoiler season. And I've been trying to make it work in a bunch of different ways, as have just about every other YouTuber on this site. But today, I got something a little bit different for you. Let's go to it.
Yo, I'm sorting through some heinous haters like a pooper scooper. I'm just trying to take my life like a Koopa Trooper. I'm double Mario, that mean I'm super. And I'm freaking dangerous like a Chupa Cabre. Got them all day like a Kanye, but I'm way better getting cheddar in Monterey. But Jack, you don't know, man. You got the show, man. You want roast beef? Well, I'm Arby's.
We're back. Julie's all cradled up now. She's super sweet. But anyway, today we're going to take a crack at the Kraken, but I decided that I wasn't going to be satisfied like just playing Ultros. We're going to take it a step further here and just play all the sea monsters. Not all the sea monsters, really. I shouldn't say that, because like I'm not going to go that far and play like Octoprofit. I'm sorry, Octoprofit fans. I know it's fine and sealed and all that, but like I'm not playing Octoprofit in my standard deck. But we are playing a bunch of different sea monsters in this deck. Not only the 4 copies of Nadir Kraken, but also 2 copies of Serpent of Yawning Depths and 1 copy of Lochmere Serpent. First of all, Wombo Combo Alert, super secret tech, and I know that's what you care about most. Lochmere Serpent, Nadir Kraken actually go hand and tentacle together pretty well, because you can obviously just sacrifice swamps to the Lochmere Serpent, draw some cards, get some tentacles, swole up your Kraken, you know, all that's pretty sweet. And these two are pretty big. Once they're on the board together, they can get to swinging for a lot of damage. It can be really hurtful to the opponent. And Lochmere Serpent can just go unblockable if you want to sack islands, but you don't even really have to, because you've got Serpent of Yawning Depths. Throw this bad boy down in the late game. Suddenly, your Serpents and your Krakens is unblockable, son. And that's pretty sweet, especially in the case of Kraken, because sometimes you'll get this thing huge, you know, 9, 10 power over the course of a game. They'll just block it every turn with Cauldron Familiar and like laugh at you. It's not fun. But there's also like other ways that opponents can likewise like chump block it all through the game, and that can be a pain. So just Serpent of Yawning Depths getting a Kraken through is pretty sweet in and of itself, but obviously this can attack for a bunch of damage too. All cool cards, but the problem is that most of them are sorcery speed, with the exception of Lochmere Serpent, which I am so addicted to the flash on that I want to give flash to every single card in the deck. Not just our other sea monsters and stuff, but especially them. So we're going to play 4 copies of Leyline of Anticipation. All 4 copies here. I want as much chance as possible of drawing this in our opening hand. I don't really like drawing copies after we draw our opener, so 4 copies is a lot, I understand, but I'm not going to dilly-dally and tiptoe around things and play 3 or anything like that. I want to draw this in our opener as often as we possibly can, so 4 full copies of it. It is that important to the deck. First of all, again, we've got a lot of cards that we want to play at instant speed that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. But Serpent of Yawning Depths is really cool to be able to play at instant speed, because you just play it at the end of your opponent's turn and suddenly, surprise, you're getting through with an 11 power Kraken or something. That's a good play, but especially, again, if we're trying to support Nadir Kraken, it is in our best interest to play it at instant speed, and Leyline's the best and one of the only ways to do that right now. So playing all 4 copies of this comes from someone who's been trying to make Nadir Kraken work the entire time. It's been in standard here a couple of weeks now, and on experience, I will say that the worst way to play Nadir Kraken is on curve, on your turn. That's bad. It's got a huge target on its back. Your opponent's going to kill it before it actually creates too much value for you. And I'd say the best way to do it, again, from experience here, is playing it at the end of your opponent's turn so you can immediately untap, start getting value, and you're able to protect it as quickly as possible. But if we're playing Kraken, we have to play some cards that draw us cards, which shouldn't be too hard to do in the Dimir color combination, especially in blue, which is where all the good card draw is. So let's play 2 copies of Opt, 1 copy of Chemist's Insight, and 3 copies of Gadwick, which is the most important card draw piece in the entire deck. Especially considering we're playing Leyline of Anticipation, why not take advantage of that by also playing a few copies of Gadwick? Late in the game, this can draw us 3 cards, plus make us 3 tentacles, make our Kraken huge all at one time, and it can all happen at instant speed in this deck, which is especially ridiculous. It's a really cool trick, too, with Leyline to be able to play Gadwick on your opponent's, or right before your opponent's attack step, and then play another spell directly after to tap down one of their creatures. They'll never see it coming, and it's a really sweet place. There's so much you can do with Gadwick, even if you don't have a Nadir Kraken on the table at the time, whatever, just play Gadwick for X equals 3 or 4, and suddenly you're doing really well for yourself. So just Gadwick is good in just about any situation. But I'm also playing the 1 of Chemist's Insight, which looks a little surprising. You might expect a 2 or even a 4 of Chemist's Insight, but we really don't have the slots for all of the card draw that I'd really like in the deck. Our slots are kind of taken up in other more important ways. So even though I really wish we could play 4 Insight and 4 Opt for that matter, again, just couldn't end up finding the slots for them at the end of the day because there's more important ways to use those slots. But I do want to play some of these, at least 1 Chemist's Insight, especially when you have 6 mana and a Nadir Kraken. This card is unbelievable, and you can just do it again next turn, right? It leads to a bunch of tentacles and a whole bunch of +1/+1 counters. So at least 1 copy of Chemist's Insight. I couldn't help myself. Same thing with the Ops. End of the day, I just couldn't help myself. I have to play some number of this card because not only is it awesome with Nadir Kraken, just about the cheapest way to get tentacles and make counters that you could possibly play in this format right now, but it's also awesome with Gadwick because it's the cheapest way to tap down a creature if you have a Gadwick on the board. So I want to play some number of these, but again, I wish I could find more slots for them. So what did I use those slots on? Well, mostly like disruption and removal and stuff. We're basically, at our core, a Dimir control deck here that plays Serpents and whatnot at our top end and also has to make room for Leyline of Anticipation. I mean, I think there's like 11 slots in this deck that are different from a typical Dimir control deck. So we're definitely taking some liberties with the typical list, but we're still kind of a Dimir control deck, and we can't play nothing but Krakens and card draw spells because it turns out that we have opponents, and if you have opponents, you kind of have to account for that. So I'm going to play some disruption, some removal here, starting with 4 copies of Agonizing Remorse, 4 copies of Sinister Sabotage. Now, both of these I won't necessarily call removal, but they are sort of proactive ways to deal with stuff that your opponent might play. And in the case of Sinister Sabotage, this is incredibly important in this deck for a couple of reasons. Not only is it an important counterspell that'll counter really game-breaking plays for your opponent, sometimes swing the game entirely. A Sinister Sabotage can be the difference between a loss and your opponent scooping when they can't resolve their best spells. So all 4 copies of that for that reason, obviously, but also sometimes if you don't get a Leyline in your opening hand or you don't similarly have one on the board already, the best way to play Nadir Kraken is to wait until you have 6 open mana. Play Nadir Kraken with Sinister Sabotage backup. That'll not only make sure you resolve the Kraken, but if you do resolve the Kraken, it'll protect it from removal until you can untap again. So again, keep that in mind. Sometimes that's the best way to play a Kraken. Now, in the case of Agonizing Remorse, I'm playing this over Thought Erasure, but this is really more of, whatever card suits your taste more. Thought Erasure is pretty decent in control decks because the Surveil can fix our draws, and that's very important for making sure we get the pieces we need for any game state. That's an important piece, but at the same time, Agonizing Remorse is really sweet in a format full of escape creatures and whatnot, so I'll play this instead, and it's a little bit easier to cast for Thought Erasure for what's that is worth. And you'll be really thankful on a 2 swamp start that you have Agonizing Remorse and not Thought Erasure. But in terms of removal, I'm playing all 4 copies of Tyrant Scorn, 3 Murderous Rider, and 2 Enter the God Eternals. Enter the God Eternals is just super sweet, even in a normal Dimir control deck, but in this deck, due to Leyline of Anticipation, we can play this card at instant speed, and it is just a banger at instant speed, y'all. This card is ridiculous, and it's really sweet against all the mono red decks if you can get to it, and it's fairly easy to do that with early removal like Tyrant Scorn. Tyrant Scorn also kind of plays a dual role in this deck. We can not only kill small creatures against the aggro decks, which is really what the card is in the deck for, but it can also save a Nadir Kraken or a Serpent of Yawning Depths or whatever, and that's nice. But it can also, even more, save a Gadwick and allow you to recast it again in the late game. So a little bit of flexibility against decks like Control, where you normally really wouldn't have much to do with this card in the late game. But just being able to bounce your own Gadwick and play it again is huge numbers in the late game. And again, you'll be really happy you have access to that trick. But mostly Tyrant Scorn is to kill small creatures in the early game, keep them off our back so we can execute our plan. Same thing with Murderous Rider, but this can also take out Planeswalkers and whatnot. And there's a bunch of Nissas going around in this format, and a bunch of other Planeswalkers, Teferi and whatnot. And obviously Teferi is really detrimental to our Leyline of Anticipation plan, so it's nice to have Murderous Rider in there to get that thing, that stupid card off the battlefield. I kind of can't, another standard and another season where I can't wait for Teferi to rotate. Here's our sideboard right here, and it's honestly not too complicated. All things considered, duress and negating there against control, that's what they do best. Nothing changed. They're still really good against those decks. Let's play in the board. Ether Gust. Amazing against mono red, but pretty sweet against the green decks in the format too. But so is Noxious Grasp. This is mostly a really sweet answer to Teferi that'll obviously answer a ton of other stuff in the format too, so why not play all 4 copies of both of the important color hosers, because they are the 2 best color hosing cards we have access to in the format. So full play sets. Aside from that, Ritual of Soot to take out the aggro decks in the format, and we've got a fairly well-rounded sideboard without having to play a bunch of one-ofs. Here are your power rankings right here. Final score of Nintendo 64, which is a pretty decent score, but I feel like some of the scores are hampered a point or two sometimes by the fact that this isn't like a pure Dimir control deck. You could build Dimir control better than this if you really wanted to. But the upside here is that you get to play sea monsters. It's just, for a lot of people, that's going to be worth it. And as a matter of fact, I found a really good quote when I was researching what constitutes research in my line of work, what amazingly counts as research. And that is a quote. Well, I just Googled quotes about Krakens, quotes about sea monsters. And I actually ended up finding a quote from the author of a book called The Kraken. His name is China Myville, and the quote is in reference to his own work. He was asked about the unorthodox writing style employed in this book. And he said, Kraken is a very undisciplined book. If it doesn't come off, it's disastrous. But there are pleasures, I think, to a meandering lack of discipline that you can't get the other way. And that, if that is not the jank brewer's credo, I don't know what is, right? If it doesn't come off, it's disastrous. But there are pleasures to going about things in this way that you can't get by going about things the other way. It's not optimal. We understand that. It doesn't play all the best cards, and it could play better cards. But again, you just can't have as much fun in a regular old Dimir control deck that just, I don't know, like tries to kill him with Ashiok and doesn't play creatures or something. You can't. It's cool, it's not fun, right? It's not as much fun as playing giant Krakens on the top end of the curve and just stomping through unblockable with huge giant dudes your opponent never actually saw coming. That is how you're supposed to play Magic. And again, I have never seen a quote that so closely, perfectly describes why we of the jank people build decks the way we do and why we do. And if all that made perfect sense to you and you're a member of the Board of Trustees at the Jank Bank and you want to try this deck out, then just click the first link in the description and that'll take you to the deck list over on TCG Player. You can switch things up if you want to, but ordering the deck through TCG Player helps me out. But if you want to help me out in non-financial ways, just click the like button, do all that stuff, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications if you haven't done it yet. And oh my god, did we make it all the way through a Nadir Kraken deck without a hentai joke? Did we pull it off? I guess we technically haven't at this point, but I mean, that was like a solid 15 minutes with no mention of that, and I think I'm the only YouTuber so far that has avoided somehow making that joke. But anyway, I guess I'm done for this one. So again, just do all the YouTube stuff. Check out the Patreon if you really want to help me out. Link in the description for that, or go to that down there, patreon.com/SBMTG. Pitch in $1 a month. Just $1 a month is all I really ask. That'll help you vote. It won't help you. It'll let you vote on what decks we even do around here in the first place. This deck is the result of a Patreon poll, and there were like 5 other super janky decks. Don't you want to know what they were? Just sign up for the Patreon. $1 a month is all I ask. But aside from that, I guess I'm done for this one. Make sure you let me know how you felt about it down there in the comments section. I know you probably wanted me to play Octo Prophet. I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry, buddy. I think you're awesome. I think you're cool, but I just didn't. You're not in this deck. You're not in this one. You got benched. I'm sorry. But anyway, I guess I'm done. So just let me know how you felt about it, and I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Spread love and be kind. Julie, you're actually here the entire time. You're such a sweet baby. Oh my goodness, you're so sleepy. You're so sleepy. Are the Patreon people rolling? Yeah, there they are. There's the Patreon people. These $10 Patreon people. They keep father in business. Really good. They really do, buddy. I just couldn't do it without them. They make sure that you get that kitty food and the tummy rubs. Well, I'd rub your tummy regardless, but still, they're very important people to Papa. So yeah, very good. Anyway, this is Julie. I think in 5 years this is like the third time you've ever seen Julie. So enjoy it. It doesn't happen every day. But she's actually really upset because we have a new puppy who I'm sorry is not on camera. He's not ready. He's really shy. In case we had a new puppy and Julie's like super depressed about it. So she's kind of been following me around. She's really mad at her mom. So it's I guess that's cool. That's cool for me because I get a kitty that I don't usually get to hang out with. That's very sweet. Anyway, I guess, yeah, am I finally going to end the video? Bye.